What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Thee CrazyFaceUno Podcast, where everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. What's your story? If you'd like to support the show and help us tell more stories like the one you're about to hear, please visit CrazyFaceUno.com today. There, you can purchase items from our online store and donate. As always, I'm your host, Shane McNeely, and boy, are you in for a treat today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our guest today. Please welcome Adam Palumbo. Welcome, Adam. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hello.
Hello.
All who are listening.
Yeah. Dude, I am super pumped to have you on the show. It's funny, I reached out to you, it's been a while ago on Facebook, and I kind of figure, usually I'll go out and I'll send, 5 to 10 different, invites out and kind of invite people, mm-hmm. and most people respond, in one way or another, and I know some people check their Facebook and some people don't, but you reached out to me and you're like, hey, sorry, it's been forever, but yeah, let's do it. And I'm super pumped to have you on. So thanks, Adam.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. I felt bad that it was like so weeks removed, but I definitely, I kind of intentionally have stepped away from Facebook.
Can't blame you.
Over the last couple of years, but with quarantine and staying home a lot more, I just wound up, logging in and going through some messages and found yours. So
yeah, man,
it's good.
It's cool. We first met, Adam, back in our first meeting. First time we ever met was been in 2010, fall 2010. That's when I went out to Invisible Children in San Diego and joined that crew with the nonprofit Invisible Children. And you were working there at the time and
mm-hmm.
were there well before me, and it's been a fun ride, kind of getting to know you and having our friendship, the time there for sure. And I haven't talked to you since then. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Yeah, and under crazy circumstances too, with the world and COVID-19 and all of this. It's wild. Yeah,
it's bizarre. I mean, we were chatting a little bit before.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bizarre time, and people are all trying to wrap their heads around it and make sense of it the best they can, and move forward. But and as far as connecting in this way, it is an interesting and unique family of people with Invisible Children. Like, it was a workplace, and an office, and that's how we met. It's like you can tell people, oh, we used to work together.
Yeah.
But it was such an interesting workplace in that sense that you really did, even though you might not have stayed in touch with people over the years, there is that camaraderie, so that even years later you can run into someone, whether it's in an airport or at a wedding or this, over a podcast.
Yeah.
And there's this like really cool connection and that shared history of like that year or multiple years or whatever it was that, it's always fun to talk to people who spend time in the walls of Invisible Children, because it was just this relation of that time and what you were experiencing that it's so hard to communicate to people outside of those walls and who didn't experience it with you.
Yeah.
And I know I'm guilty of bringing it up in conversations a lot, because there's so many there's so many deep memories and experiences in that short window of time. I mean, I was there for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a significant chunk of my late 20s, early 30s. And definitely like very significant shaping time in my life. So when I bring it up, sometimes people just, they'll laugh and roll their eyes like, oh yeah, wait, that time that you were on the road with IC,
Yeah.
Because it just becomes this cliche thing that I'll bring up.
Right. I don't think it's the shared experience, and I don't, you're nailed it on the head, because people don't understand, I mean, maybe we'll get into it, maybe we won't, but, you know, I think you have a significant other. My wife, you know, I'm married now, I live down in South Florida, and, yeah, when we first met, you know, it's kind of the same thing. And even, you know, she's learned a lot about it. She's met a lot of people from Invisible Children over the years. But, you know, when we first started dating and started talking about my experience and just new people in general, when you bring up anything work related or things you've done in the past, they're just like, oh, cool, you know, and like nod their head and move on. But it's more than that. It's just so much more than that. It's a shared experience. And like you said, yes, we work together, you know, we're coworkers of sorts, but you know, the part that gets missed is the amount of time you spend with each other, where I lived in a, you know, 2-bedroom apartment with 5 to 6 people on a regular basis. And that I also worked with at the same company, that we, you know, played together. We went and had drinks together. We went and ate food together. We hung out with each other on the weekends. We, you know, it's that shared camaraderie. It's that shared experience. And we did hard things. We experienced some really hard, profound, you know, deep soul searching things that we've all gone through. And, you know, from our training as roadies at Invisible Children, that's been compared to, you know, like marriage counseling, that you're working with a team of learning about yourself, but also learning about these people that you've been put together with and allowed to grow together and grow with. And it's a unique experience that still to this day, no one's really going to understand. And, it's beautiful, and it's something that's very foundational and important to who I am today in my life. And I will, and I'm sure you're the same way, but I will be unabashful about my my love and the conversations that I have about Invisible Children, because it's been a huge part of my life, and I'm very grateful for the time that I got to share with all of you there.
Yeah, man, I agree, and it was completely abnormal and ridiculous. like what you're saying, you know, living in 2-bedroom apartments with 6 people. And I think I lived in that apartment before you did, you know, with a different group of guys.
Exactly. Yep.
And, yeah, and I don't think you realize how abnormal it is until, you know, later. And so it's like conversations like this where we're looking back and we're just like, oh my gosh, like that was my reality for a season of time. And it's just, the level of, you know, in depth that you had with a set of people, the people that you lived with, that you worked with, that is not normal. You know, I don't think if you describe that to many people that they would want that experience. A lot of people would think, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I would never want to go home with the people I work with and then spend more time with them, you know, like, but we would go from like a work day to a happy hour to
consistently
like, sit on the couch in our, you know, in our shorts. Like, and then you just wake up in the morning and do it all over again.
Right.
You know,
which may or may not have been like a surf session before you went to work that morning. And
like whatever it was kind of nonstop, which it's amazing that it worked as well as it did, you know?
And I think it's that like-minded people, you know, that come together. And I think that's what allows, you know, conversations like we're having now and about to have, and the conversations I've had with people from Invisible Children over the last, you know, year or so, that makes it what it is. It makes it fruitful. It makes it, you know, I haven't talked to you legitimately in probably, you know, since 2012. And, you know, 2013 maybe, when we had that little reunion, you know, but I haven't talked to you since then. And yet we can pick up right where we left off and move on. And we have this shared experience, and we have this baseline understanding of who we are as individuals. Have I changed? Have I grown up since then? 100%. We both have. We all have. Everyone has, you know, but it's a special thing, I think.
Yeah, it really was. It was. And all like, the great memories, like you said. I mean, some really difficult things to walk through, but I always tell people I'm really grateful for the decision I made to take that step and come out to San Diego, and how it has definitely shaped my life. I mean, I still live in San Diego, which is bizarre.
A little bit jealous. I am in sunny South Florida right now, but I'm not going to lie. If I could trade places to go to, good old sunny San Diego, I would totally do that.
Oh man. It gets in you, coming from where I came from in New England. It was, it's definitely been, a nice shift for sure. But yeah, I mean, just that fact alone, not only that I still live here, and I don't think I would have ever made a move to San Diego had it not been something as big as what it was for this, internship for Invisible Children. That's what got me out here. I'd never even been to California before.
Yeah.
But before I did my first,
I don't think I had either.
Yeah. I'd never been to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Period. So it was a big thing to, jump on a plane, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do this internship thing, and just go for it. And you show up, and but it really did change the trajectory of my life. And also I think that where I was in life, that I had already finished college.
Yeah.
So the reason I think I stayed, and I was given new opportunities and just stuck around, because I was like, yeah, I know this isn't going to last forever, but it's pretty incredible. And I didn't have the added weight of going back to school or finishing a college degree, or something like that. So it was really giving me a deep satisfaction and meaning, because I had a little taste of the, I guess, adult, world post college and working. So it wasn't anything that I was really rushing to get back to. And so like a 9-month internship turned into almost 4 years.
Yeah. Which, we'll get into all of this, but the fact that you were there for 4 years is incredible. And, it'll be cool to kind of talk through some of that. It's different to be there for that long. It's not the normal, stint that a lot of people do of working there at Invisible Children for 4 years, and it's a lifetime. It's like dog years, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that for sure. But let's catch up. Let's hear a little bit about you. Again, catch us up from June 2012. Mid 2012, I believe is what I saw and remember. Was when you left Invisible Children. But what have you been up to since that point? And then kind of bring us up to speed with from there to now, the last 8 to 10 years. Just a couple of years.
A few years. Yeah, well, man, it's a continued journey, I would say. I think, so after 2012, I think the last official involvement that I had was I went on a band's tour with Thrice. And so this was like post Coney 2012. And Thrice was still showing support and having Invisible Children out on the road with them. And they were doing this quote unquote farewell tour, where they were just taking a break from writing and recording, and band members had other things going on in life. So I went out with my friend Eugene Kim, and the two of us were just in an IC van following the tour and setting up a merch table every night, at the shows. And so I came home from that tour, and man, I had done a lot of tours, and I didn't even think that I was going to do it again. But I was like already living in San Diego at the time. Trying to figure out what my next steps were going to be, career-wise or for a job. And I got back into this like restaurant world, service industry, because that's something that I'd always done. From my first job was McDonald's in high school,
Nice.
So I'd always worked in restaurants throughout high school and college. So the first thing I did to just, you know, you're an intern slash roadie at Invisible Children. You're making little to no money.
Yep.
Sometimes you get like a little stipend to get you by.
Yep.
But yeah, like I came off of years of that kind of work, and I was like, I need to make money quickly, you know? And so initially I was poking around and trying to get into the nonprofit world, and, you know, took some interviews with a few different nonprofits. I felt like I had a decent resume from the experience that I had gotten at Invisible Children, but that didn't, you know, come to fruition quickly, and I needed to work, so I just started going to restaurants. I was like, you know what, I can always wait tables in the meantime.
Sure.
And look into other things, you know. So I was, I want to say between like 2011 and hold on, sorry, I was getting another call.
You're good.
Between 2011, I want to say, and 2013, I was working in restaurants, and then I got a few different opportunities at Invisible Children along the way as well. 2012 being like one of those things that was the catalyst to kind of get me back in the walls. And like I was already living in San Diego, just, you know, down the street from the office. So I got a call from Zach Barrows, and he's like, hey, you know, things are going crazy in the office. If you want to earn a little bit extra money, just like pay you minimum wage an hour to come down and book some screenings, you know?
Yeah.
So I did stuff like that. And then I was back around the office. So then I got the invitation to go out on the road for the Thrice tour. So I did that, you know? And then I came back and just, I'm like, you know, working at this vegan place for a little while.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, it was this place called Casa de Luz. That was in North Park.
Nice.
Worked there for about a year and a half. And really, I mean, I didn't want to leave the friends that I had here. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So I stayed in San Diego because I had these deep relationships and great friendships that I just didn't want to leave, you know?
Yeah.
Felt like the lifestyle here was so great, and who knows how long it'll last. So I just, I hung around, and there was this breaking point where I think it was the end of 2013 going into 2014. And that place, Casa de Luz, that I was working at, closed. Like the business just shut down. It was a family-run business. They weren't doing well. They weren't generating, you know, the profit they needed to stay afloat. So the family decided to close the business. So this was the end of the year. You know, holidays are coming around. I usually like to, you know, travel to Massachusetts to see my family or whatnot on Christmas. And it was just one of those things where I was thinking, you know what, maybe San Diego has run its course for me, and maybe I should think about heading back home or doing or whatnot. So I was on unemployment for a little while and figuring out my next move. And then the start of 2014, I went to an open interview for a restaurant group here in San Diego. Yeah, and I got that job. So cool. I just had to wait. I had to wait for the opening of that restaurant because it, you know, it was still under construction when they were doing the open interviews. And so I took that position, and within the same month, I think it was like March of 2014. Before that, I was doing some weird side jobs. Like I was working for a guy that he ran an eBay store. Nice. And my friend Raph like found the job on Craigslist and was like, hey, this guy, he'll pay us under the table, you know, whatever. We just have to show up, and we would. So he resold suitcases and old merchandise that he would get in bulk from like Macy's and Bloomingdale's. Okay. He would buy pallets of all this old stuff that was returns. So, you know, like department stores, they have these crazy return policies. So someone wears a belt or a pair of shoes once and they don't like it and they return it. Yeah. Well, they can't resell that merchandise. So they put it to the side and they sell that stuff in bulk. So this guy would get pallets and pallets of this stuff, and we would sift through it and sort it. So we basically like,
Nice.
oh, this is a Gucci belt.
Yeah.
So that's valuable. So that goes on the good pile, and he would clean it all up, shine it up, put it on his eBay site, and resell it. Then all the other stuff that wasn't name brand or whatever, we'd put in bins, and he would go to the swap meet in San Diego and just sell this stuff.
Dude,
just like,
I love that hustle so much. I can't tell you how much I love that hustle.
It was just one of the most bizarre random jobs that I had for a while, just to kind of get me through before my, next job started. And I mean, I even went to the swap meet one day with him, like showed up at his house at 5 a.m. The sun's not even up, help him load this massive, Sprinter van filled with bins of merchandise, and go to the swap meet and like just sit there and like peddle stuff, but just like awesome. Hustling, And this guy, I forget where he was from, but he was from Eastern Europe somewhere. And so, man, he was just like, he's making his way in San Diego. Like, this was his full time, like eBay seller. And he would get all this old or one-time used luggage, like really nice luggage and handbags. And we'd clean them all up. He would repair the zippers, all that kind of stuff, polish it up, and then resell it. And he had a good presence on Google and stuff like that. So people would just show up in the showroom and cool. and buy some like really nice, some nice luggage.
Yeah.
And who knew? I had no idea that WD-40 was a great cleaner, because it was all this tape and stuff that would leave adhesive on the suitcases, and we would use WD-40 to like rub it off. Nice. And then it's like, then just let it dry and get the smell out, and then you resell that thing, and it was boom, it was money.
That's awesome. I love that.
So sorry, all that to say, I worked some random jobs to get by, and then I started at this new big time restaurant in Little Italy called Ironside. It was like a big grand opening. Yeah. A very intense training for like almost a month. And and then so that started in March 2014, and then I worked there up until closure because of COVID-19. Oh, so wow. Like 6 years.
Cool. Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I find myself in another like weird crossroads, as like back from that 2013 experience. Yeah. Where
now you're like, what do I do? Yeah.
Yeah, just like when this like worldwide health pandemic, and now it's shut down the restaurant that I've been working at for all these years. Yeah. And but it's it is, I guess it is what it is, and but it's a good time to take stock of where I've been and where I want to go, and thankfully, the state of California and the government has been able to come through, and I'm not, I'm not lacking for, food or paying rent and that kind of stuff. So it's okay. Awesome. But I worked my way up at Ironside. I started as a bar back and became a bartender about a year and a half after that. And nice. Then I made my way up into some like management responsibilities and just learning some ins and outs of the business, the bar world, like doing some inventory, ordering liquor and spirits, ordering beers, and that whole side of things. It's a pretty intense business, but very much so. Yeah. I always appreciate it that it's each day is different, because you don't know who's gonna walk up to your bar. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes there's people you wish they didn't walk up to your bar, and sure. And then you have to navigate those waters and be like, what do we do with this guy? Yeah. Do we cut him off? Like, do we serve him another drink? And but I mean, like yourself, I'm a conversationalist, so that is always great, because I go to work each day and I get to talk to people, whether it's my coworkers or the people across the bar. You're chatting, and I've always appreciated the alternative to, say, like a traditional office job in a cubicle, I would come home from a long shift and be like, you know what? Yeah, it kind of takes its toll on your body and being on your feet all day.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I always compared it to what else was out there and kind of be grateful that, man, it keeps my metabolism going because you're never standing still, and there's always someone to talk to, So I appreciate that side of the job. I appreciate the creativity of it, the aspect of getting to create, like, learn what it is about, like what it takes to make a good cocktail.
Yeah.
And
it's an art.
Yeah, it is. It is an art. There's a culinary side to it. So I've never worked in kitchens.
Sure.
I've worked in a lot of restaurants, and I always did front of house work, meaning front of house, like server, bartender, food runner. Like you're out with the people, you're at the tables and stuff. And bartending gives you this kind of really cool fusion of the two, where you're creating something right in front of the person. Like, and I feel bad for a lot of times chefs don't have that unique opportunity. Like, a lot of times they're in the back in a kitchen, they're closed off from the people. The cool thing about Ironside, the place that I've been working at, is the kitchen's open. So people can see the chefs. They can say hi to them. They can say, thank you, that meal was amazing, or whatever. But
I've seen some creative stuff with restaurants too, though, especially, not really nice restaurants and high class, restaurants like Ironside that they'll do their like chef's table in the back, where if they've created their own building or their own store, they'll have that, pay X amount of dollars and you can have a table that's right there in the kitchen and, have that experience, which is a cool way to kind of do that. And to be able to see and share. And as a chef, I would imagine that would be a really cool opportunity to kind of have that flair and have that kind of that similarity that you're talking about with bartending. Yeah,
definitely. It was definitely like a step up from just, serving in that respect. It was like you could create something, you just got to wow a guest, right then and there. You're also creating that, that service and that hospitality, but you have that culinary side as well, where you're asking people what they like, the flavors they like, and creating something on the spot. And I mean, granted, it's hit or miss. Sometimes you give someone a drink, you're like, oh, you're gonna love this. Like, I got this perfect one for you.
Yeah.
You try to hype yourself up and like hype the drink up and everything, and then they take the first sip and you look at their expression and you're like, oh,
dang it, I missed.
Like, they don't like it, you know? But it was like, we were the kind of place where we would, we'd just be like, let me make you something else. It wasn't about, and that's where I appreciated what the place was about and what the company is about is like, true hospitality is like, don't force a drink down someone's throat that they don't really like and worry about the cost and that whole thing. It's like, no, make the person happy, throw that drink away and, and give them something that they're going to enjoy.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that they'll remember that experience and come back again because, like I recognize the fact that, hey, I was the one who recommended this drink and you don't like it. So let me do something else,
There's some really cool statistics that I've, heard, recently. I'm trying to think of where it was, but just talking about restaurant industry in general. And it had to do with, your first getting people in the door and like their second time there and their third time there. And just kind of like the process of kind of retaining clientele and new, people and how, kind of like you're saying, with giving people that drink that they want and not necessarily focusing on the cost of the one they didn't like, but it's retaining them and bringing them back into your business and the word of mouth, it's marketing for any restaurant or business is that word of mouth. And man, I'll be the first one to tell you, I love food. I'm a foodie for sure. And if I find a restaurant that I love, I'm going to tell everybody about it. Like I won't shut up about it. And I'll bring people there and I'll get other people to come in, and that's huge. That's huge, especially for the restaurant industry and just the marketing and making something brilliant and beautiful and an experience more so than just food, sitting down. And I think that's personally, I think that's why I love food so much. And I love that whole process, that whole scene of when you walk into, for instance, like Ironside, and I'm sure you can tell me exactly these types of details, but when you walk into a restaurant like Ironside, I've never been into Ironside, but from the tables that you're sitting at, to the napkins, to the lighting that's above your head, to the fork, the knife, the plate, the glasses, everything was a choice, was a decision to amplify the experience that you have at this restaurant. And it's just like in a film, or a book, you don't introduce a character, you don't introduce something that isn't important to the story. It's the same way with a restaurant and the elevated, this fine dining experience. People are like, oh, why would you pay that much for that meal? And you go, well, yes, I understand that it's a high price, but it's not just the price. It's the experience you get. It's the taste. It's the creativity. It's the art. It's a whole thing. It's not just a check a box, I ate today. It's an experience.
Yeah. Shane, you get it, man.
I get it. I get it 100%.
That's the deeper appreciation for the fine things. And you're right. It's, I mean, it is cliche, but we have a big poster at Ironside that says "Love is in the details." That just exactly what you're saying, like what the plates, the glassware, everything, like those little details that a lot of people do not think about and they don't care about, but there are plenty of people who do, and I think in this day and age of Instagram and Yelp. Yeah. It is, we obviously social media is a massive part of our lives now, and
whether we like it or not, right?
Yeah, whether we like it or not. And dude,
it's my business, so yeah, I get it.
If you talk to anyone who's in the restaurant industry, there's a lot of, I think there's more hate for Yelp than there is love. Instagram is another story. Instagram is free marketing, and so there's a lot of writers and bloggers and foodies out there who will they'll show and document how now the restaurant design and build outs and lighting are being directed towards an Instagram friendly restaurant.
Sure. Because I never even thought about that.
I mean, if you're a restaurant owner or manager, why would you not taking shots of your space, of your tables, of the food, of the the drink preparation and the garnishes and all that, because that's free marketing for yourself.
100%.
So that's an entire section and market of Instagram is food and drink and restaurants and having an active and good looking Instagram presence.
100%.
And then on the other side you have Yelp, which so many people use, and it's like make or break for a lot of businesses. If you don't have a good presence on Yelp, people take that to heart. I mean, I have an interesting relationship to it. I'm not an active Yelp user. Yeah. But if I am, I don't write a lot of reviews on there and whatnot. I read a lot of the reviews of my own workplace. Sure. Because I think that's part of being responsible. It's kind of like, okay, what is the general populace seeing about our place, or for sure, what are they saying about our service? Yeah. And honestly, it's an ego check a lot of times. If someone gives you a 1 star and they're like, well, this bartender, and they could be me, or they name the person by name, it's just like, oh shit, okay, like that, like we blew it on that instance, and then it's a learning experience. Yeah. And
every company does this, and it's different platforms, right? You're talking about Yelp and Instagram, there's other ones like Open Table and there's higher end Yelp kind of platforms, but even businesses, companies. My wife, the company she works for, she's the same way. She's going on what is it, Glassdoor and, Google and their comments and stuff. And, they think through those same processes. Works for a medical supplier. She's a manager there. And so, it's this customer service aspect of things that she talks to customers, and it's the same for her. She goes, well, why don't we just give you some samples and meet the need that you want, send you on your way, make you happy? Because at the end of the day, this goes back to the drink concept or idea as well. Just like, well, you didn't like that. Let me get you something you like. What do you like? It's the same thing, well, let me take care of you, because that review that you give, that comment that you put on Google or whatever, Glassdoor, it has monumental impact on companies and your image for what they stand for and what they exist. And then, you take it one step further in the food industry. It's a personal, it's personal. It's the name drop. It's the, the chef, the person that's invested the money into, the investors, the experience completely. And you can take your Yelps, which I understand your, love hate for Yelp, because I feel like Yelp it's easy to get on and make a comment about, but it's, I don't know. It's almost too easy. And so you get just a lot of, the expectation isn't set across the board, right? So you're comparing McDonald's will be on Yelp. The McDonald's down the street will be on Yelp, right?
Right.
And they're going to give that, McDonald's thousands of whatever stars and comments and whatever based on that. But what you're getting at McDonald's. But to be on the same level playing field as Ironside, is McDonald's on a platform, doesn't seem quite the same. And the expectation shouldn't be the same. And if you've only been to a McDonald's and you go to a Ironside, or you go to a fine dining establishment and you go, wow, I have to pay $65 for this meal, for just one meal. I have to pay $15 for a drink, or, whatever it is. And you go, why would I do that? That's silly. I can just go get, cool. It's not for you. It's not that experience, but it's not how it's viewed. And that's just the standard, the standard line.
Yeah, exactly. There's different levels of restaurants, obviously. Like, you can't compare like a fast casual sit down restaurant to to fast food, but people do. I mean, granted,
and that's the issue.
I'll still go to fast food places, even though I work within the business. It's like, it all serves a purpose, right?
I had Arby's just earlier this week,
Oh yeah, man. It's like,
who doesn't love a good roast beef sandwich? But
right. Everyone has their guilty pleasure, or like whatever. And, but I think the thing is that, it's a game of averages with Yelp as well. So, the thing that, like I mentioned earlier, you can learn from it, and you can have your ego checked, and you can take it as a lesson. Like, we messed up that time, and that person probably won't be back. So let's do our best to not let that happen again. You can read an honest written review of someone's experience. But then there's the other people who, in this game of, like, we're talking about social media and expectations, people see things on Yelp and on the internet, and it's like, we're a seafood restaurant, so we're constantly getting fresh food and different food according to the season. And so someone can see something on a photo on Yelp and be like, I'm going to Ironside and I'm getting the fish tacos, and they're all stoked for these fish tacos. And then someone walks through and they don't even look at the menu, and they're like, I want the fish tacos. And then I have to say, I'm really sorry, but the chef took the fish tacos off the menu. They're not available right now. And the look of disappointment in some people's faces with, like, when you give someone that kind of news, they're just like, are you kidding me?
Right. So
then a decision that had been made months prior, like, we don't have the fish tacos on the menu. Then they'll walk out the door and give you a 1 star because they didn't have what they wanted.
Right.
Or, the restaurant didn't have what I wanted. So rather than find something else in the menu or be open to a new suggestion, they're like, this place sucks, 1 star.
Right.
without even truly having an experience there. Did you taste any other food? Did you
Right.
order a drink or anything? And then when you hit any restaurant, any business, this might be a learning opportunity for any. I really don't think the listeners out there are just tagging 1 stars in all these places, but when you do that, it drops the average of
Right.
the business. And so business owners and managers are working so hard every day to keep that average at like a 4-star, 4.5 star. Obviously everyone wants 5 stars. That's very difficult to attain with the Yelp world, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
But if you can, obviously, like, you don't want it to be the 2-star, 3-star, because people see those businesses and they don't even give them a chance. They don't even walk through the door, you know? And so if you are working so hard to keep this 4-star, 4.5 star, and then some people drop these 1-star reviews, it really kills your average.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard reality, but that's also why, you know, you have to pay attention to it. It's like, it's one of those things where if you don't pay attention to it in this day and age, it's just not a smart business decision.
Right.
You know, you have to kind of monitor it and see what's out there, see what people are saying and what kind of experiences people are saying. Totally. There's also secret shoppers. You know, we deal with that, and we use that as a platform to learn from. You know, the company will hire outside, you know, third party secret shoppers, and we don't know who these people are, and they roll in, and you know, they have an experience just like any other, and then they write this very in-depth, you know, report on everything, like what you were saying, the ambiance, the plateware, the glassware, the noise level, were you greeted, were you not greeted, you know, and time it all out. Like, how long did it take the server to come over the table? How long did it take you to get your drink? How long from the time you ordered your first, you know, appetizer for it to hit the table? And you're graded on all that stuff. And then the company and the managers take a deep look at that, and we all have to read it, and, you know, just learn from it, you know.
That's the crazy thing that people don't, you know, the average person doesn't know how that goes down and how, you know, what that looks like. And I think that's what makes it probably is what makes, you know, I've done some bar backing, some waiting tables as well in the past, you know, post IC, and you know, nothing is, for me, it was a small mom and pop kind of, you know, dive bar, but it's still the same, you know, it's still understanding, coming from Invisible Children, where we produce events. That's what we did. You know, we were on the road. You did over 6 tours as a roadie, and like, you walk into a school, we set up our presentation, we do all these different things, and our image, it's first impression, it's that customer service, it's all of that. It's hard work, it's dedication, you know. And so for you to go from, you know, really your background with Invisible Children and put it into this scenario, it makes sense of why you would be so good at it, Adam. So I don't know, it's cool. I think it really makes sense, and it really, what's the word I'm looking for? It
translates well.
Yeah, translates. That's one. Translates really well into like the food industry of it's a lot of hard work, you know, physically, mentally. It's thinking about all of those different aspects.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's cool that we're getting to talk about this, because I was hoping we could get into it a little bit, but I think I might have a unique perspective too, because I think a lot about the psychology of what I do. And I don't think, I don't know. I haven't had a lot of conversations with fellow bartenders about it.
Yeah.
Some, but for me, it's just this you have a unique opportunity to observe humankind. You get other people. So you see the good and the bad, and you also see a lot of yourself. And this is something that, I mean, it's interesting too, with like COVID-19 and like restaurants and bars being closed, you know, how people are responding to not having that as these social interactions that we kind of look forward to.
Yeah.
And there's, we use restaurants and bars as to make mark milestones like birthdays and anniversaries, graduations, all these kind of things. And so when you work in this industry, it's cool to be a part of those celebrations. We Ironside's relatively close to the courthouse in downtown San Diego.
Okay.
And a lot of people will get their marriage paperwork.
Oh, nice.
At the courthouse.
Yeah.
And whether it's like their official, wedding day, or they're like, we're just getting the official paperwork, and like we're legally married now. And
right.
And they'll come to Ironside, and they'll have a glass of champagne and cheers and celebrate.
That's so cool.
And that's really awesome to just say congratulations. That's like, this is great.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the couple themselves, they're kind of just having this little cheers for the two of them. Other times they bring family along and a big party of friends, and they make a big show of it.
Yeah.
And like a full dinner, and it's just cool to be this little part of someone's special day like that, right?
Totally.
But then you have a lot of internal dialogue going on, and I think there's a lot of you can have your good days and bad days, but you're always expected to be showing a really cheerful attitude.
Yes.
And so again, like, to go back to that example of like an office cubicle job, a lot of times you can be isolated and you can have a good day or a bad day there, and other people won't really know it.
Right.
But it's hard to mask your feelings, and to walk into like this crowded bar if you've been having a bad day, or you just had like a hard conversation, or you got some bad news, and you have to walk in and just like smile and be like, yeah, like I'm here, I'm on, like let's go go for this, And so there's definitely days where someone responds to you negatively, and man, that eats at you a little bit,
right? Yeah.
And you kind of think, well, shoot, am I internalizing my bad day too much, or sometimes you can be in a great mood. You walk into work and you're just like on, cloud nine, everything's great. And a customer comes through, a guest, and they're not having a good day, and they take it out on you. Yeah. And you're just like, what the hell, what is this person's problem? Like, I'm trying to give you a drink. I'm trying to make you feel good. Yeah. And you're going to like give me attitude or
flex in front of the gal or guy that you're with. And
yeah. It's just, and then it's like, man, sometimes you have to take a step away and take some deep breaths and just regain your cool. Cause it's like, these people are strangers to you, but they, there's a lot of weird, like it goes both ways. Like sometimes I'm guilty of not treating a guest the way they should be treated because of my own, problems in life. Sure. And other times the guests are definitely not on the right end of things either, and that's where I say it's like, man, it's such just like a weird observation of humanity where it's like,
it's life.
It's life. It's people from all walks of life, right? Yeah. And you have your business folk. Ironside's close to the airport, so there's a lot of people traveling, like to and from the airport. And San Diego is this like vacation destination. So you got tourists, you got vacationers, you got business folk in town for conferences and conventions, and and you learn like reading people. Like sometimes people want to talk to you, other times people don't want to talk to you. They want to be left alone. Yep. And sometimes you're like, oh man, I really want to impress this person, or like want them to have a good experience, and they could care less. And sometimes you're like, it's hard not to take that personally, like, oh, they don't care about what I just did for them. And dude, it's this very interesting like dynamic. And also I think part of the head chef at Ironside, he was interviewed at like when all the restaurants started getting shut down, and how the company was doing and how closures were impacting Ironside and everything. And he said something that was kind of cool, where he's like, this industry comes together and supports each other. They've been doing a lot of amazing things. Like, they've been keeping one place open for takeout orders to help provide food for their employees. So they're taking the sales of this one place that's remained open, and they're buying food and groceries through our produce suppliers, and then twice a week we can go down to work and get food.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Adam, have you heard of? I'm assuming you probably have, but Chef Jose Andres.
I don't believe I have.
He started. Check him out when we get off the podcast. He started. It's called World Central Kitchen, but he's one of the big name chefs. One of these guys, but he's doing stuff like you're talking about that your company's doing, but on a massive scale. When the hurricane hit the Bahamas, he was there, and with his team putting together food and meals for people and for staff that were working. And he's gone out to he's been in New York working a lot and helping deliver meals, but also deliver supplies throughout this process. But he's one of the guys that, man, I look at him and I like, makes me smile, and I see the stuff that he's a part of and he's doing, and his camaraderie is just talking about, definitely check him out, but just talking about the restaurant industry and how the food industry in our country and in the world, how like he's taking it on his shoulders and saying like, hey, this is our job, this is what we've done forever, like let's feed people, let's make sure that we take care of the people around us. And I don't know, it's really cool to see. And I'm like, man, I like filled with emotion just thinking about that, and like thinking about your company that's taking care of its workers and taking care of people. And it's beautiful. Those are the things that need to be talked about and celebrated and heard. It's huge. Yeah.
I love to see some of those stories with restaurants that they're close to the public and they can't necessarily, have regular business, but they're keeping the kitchens open, and they're making food for hospital workers and nurses and the people that are still grinding out there and taking care of people. That's awesome. And going back to what my chef was saying, is that like a lot of people in this industry are like misfits. It's all again, like just like people who step up to the bar from all walks of life, the people that work in bars and restaurants are from all walks of life. You have people who, like myself, like I was a school teacher for a little bit, then worked at a nonprofit, and then I'm, full-time, restaurant employee. And you got some people that have no college education, other people that have degrees, or, were computer programmers or whatever. And then they were like, I just wanted to do something different. And like, I wanted to get into the kitchen and be creative and start, making food or learning how to bartend and make drinks and stuff like that. But yeah, it is a lot of misfits, and it's kind of like a similar camaraderie to what we were talking about in Invisible Children, the experience all together. And that's, I've appreciated that, and it kind of, I grew up playing, like you said, I am a drummer. I've like always played music, and I grew up going to like local punk and hardcore shows and stuff. Yeah. And that's always like this group of misfits and, just kids who are like looking for something different, and so it's like that whole mentality of a little bit like going against the grain or sticking it to the man a little bit has always resonated with me. Yep. That's why like part of, going out in a van with Invisible Children, traveling around the country, it's so unorthodox. And, completely. I like finished college, I had a degree, but I was choosing to do that. Mm-hmm. And then even after Invisible Children, like it just was like hard for me to go into this kind of like compartmentalized career track. And so the restaurant work was just something I had done, and it opened up new possibilities. And, it's just been like a good ride, and whether, because of COVID-19, I'm definitely considering other options and, where I can go from here. But yeah, it's a unique kind of, way to make a living, and just grind it out, each day definitely brings you something different. And again, there's been a really cool outpouring of support, for, grants and financial assistance for restaurant employees. So the moment, when I lost my job and got laid off, there was a whole bunch of external resources, like the Bartenders Guild, One Fair Wage nonprofit, that just like a lot of different groups, the California Restaurant Association, they were offering small time, grants that you could apply for.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of those, and that's just so cool and unique that there's people out there who really cared about the industry enough and were invested in it enough to know that, look, this is thousands and thousands of people that can't work right now out of nothing to do that they've done wrong or whatever. It's just the nature of trying to keep people safe and keep this, virus contained. And so we've all been stuck home, but we have had some great help, like financially, and like I said, with my own company giving us some food and helping us out, and it's been it's been pretty remarkable. It's cool to see.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And man, kudos to Ironside and the ownership and there for the work that they're doing to help you guys, and for just for the support that people are giving. I think it's really important to point that out and say thank you to those people. And Adam, I love that you're in a great place, and I'm happy that things are going well, and just know that you have so much support around you, and we're more than willing to help you out too, and help out the food industry and this food world out as well, as things kind of progress through COVID-19 and over the next year or so. And so we're here for you, man.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. And it's kind of I'm sure people are going to be itching to get out and like have a nice meal and
I'm itching.
Go to a bar when when they reopen and everything. But it's just like it's
a big question mark right now.
It is a big question mark how long that's going to be, and obviously I want it to be like the right timing and the safe timing. But I've heard out here in California, they're talking about reopening places like having to wear masks and gloves, and which is totally understandable. Yeah. And I think that might be the reality that we live in for a while, but it also just changes the dynamic. It's
everything we talked about. It's the psychology. It's the cues, the things that made you good at what you do, right? It's the facial expressions to, I don't know. Even when you have people come in, the experience, the aesthetic to it is different. It changes the game.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, exactly. People can't necessarily see your smile through a mask. And when you're offering hospitality, my impression is that like, it's crazy to think we're going to look more like nurses do in the hospitals at a place that's supposed to be like really welcoming and open. But I think the general populace will understand that, hey, like, no, this is for public safety. Yeah. And so that's the reason we have to do that stuff. It's not because we're trying to look, like a hospital, but that's
I think people understand
what it might
hopefully.
Be,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
I want to point it out too. There's, especially once we get back and the restaurants open up, but I would love to be a part of some of those post-close days, that first day open when the restaurant closes down and you go and the staff goes and grabs a drink somewhere. I would love to be part of that celebration of being back. I know that the restaurant industry, man, you guys know how to have fun, and I don't think people
too much fun.
Yeah, sometimes, but yeah, there's nothing better than closing a shift out and going getting your, if your restaurant does that, but a lot of restaurants you get one free drink, at the end of the day, and sitting together and kind of having a good time and talking and taking it easy.
Yeah, Yeah, dude, there's nothing. There's that beer after a long
so
shift
good.
of watching everybody else drink beers for hours, and
Yeah.
you're like, yes,
When your legs hurt and your feet
good.
hurt and your eyes are hurting as well from whatever you were doing.
Yeah, totally.
Do you have any?
It's good stuff.
Do you have any like favorite drinks you like to make and consume yourself, cocktails wise?
Oh yeah, man, I make
Top
some
three.
drinks at home. Okay, top three. I'm gonna say a good Negroni.
Nice.
Definitely like that a lot. I'm making my girlfriend bee's knees a lot. She like loves that one.
Cool. What's bee's knees? Is that
it's lemon, honey, and gin.
okay? Gin. I was gonna say whiskey, but gin makes sense.
Yeah, it's typically served up.
Sure.
So it's just like an older classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like definitely we'll just make like some good old fashions at home. But I'm a big cognac fan.
Okay.
So my all-time favorite drink is a cognac old fashioned.
Nice. I don't think I've ever had a cognac old fashioned. That sounds good though, because it'd be a little sweeter.
Yeah, there's like you can do an old fashioned or you can do a Sazerac, which is like an old New Orleans cocktail.
Okay.
And some places will, it's typically known as a rye cocktail with rye whiskey.
Yeah.
But some places will do like half rye, half cognac. And I just heard like there's all this like, urban legend and history and bartending and different drink recipes and stuff. Some people claim that the Sazerac down in New Orleans was originally all cognac because before America was like making their own whiskey, we were importing from everywhere else. We're importing rum from the Caribbean, getting cognac from France, all that. So there was different spirits. Like whiskey definitely was not the big spirit in the origins of America.
Yeah.
That was like later on down the road.
Right.
So all that said, I think cognac is a delicious aged spirit, and a Sazerac has got Peychaud's bitters, a little bit of sugar, absinthe, and I prefer with cognac.
Nice.
And so a friend of mine bought me a little like Sazerac, kit for Christmas.
Nice. That's cool.
Like we have a annual Christmas party with our staff. Like all the bartenders, we get together and get really rowdy at this like steakhouse in town called Turf Club, and
good old Turf Club.
So yeah, so he bought me like a bottle of cognac and some Sazerac and like lemons and like all this stuff to like do like a really good home, Sazerac, which is cool.
That's awesome.
I love it.
What would you say like your go-to like at home cognac, like gotta have it in my own collection kind of deal?
Oh man, I wish I knew more about it. I go for I go to Bevmo and just get like this Maison Rouge cognac.
Okay.
It's the stuff that we have as like in our well, but
Nice.
It's like a great overall
Sure.
Cognac for cocktails. Now, if you want to like just get a cognac to sip on by itself, then obviously you probably want to spend a little bit more money and go for like the
but if you're mixing it, it's
the Remy Martin or
Right.
the Pierre Ferrand is another like big name. Hine, Hine, like those are all like higher end cognacs you can get, and just like you want to get fancy, throw it in a snifter, and just sip on it. But yeah, there's a few others out there like Maison Rouge is the stuff that I always just have on hand to like make some old fashions with, or Sazeracs and
that's cool.
sidecars.
Yep.
It's great.
Nice. I love that. Do you like whiskey at all?
I do. I feel like I drank a lot more whiskey before I started bartending.
Sure.
I kind of like always had an appreciation for, good craft beer because I live in San Diego. It's this like massive craft beer capital. And I kind of like got into that. And then I got into some whiskey a bit more. And then when I got behind the bar, it was just this whole world of like other spirits open up to me. So I still like love and appreciate whiskey a ton.
Yeah.
But then once I started sipping more cognacs and I got really into gin. I love gin.
Yeah, I love gin too.
Well.
Yeah.
It was like this eye-opening moment when I tasted true like good gin cocktails, or like a true traditional gin martini.
Yeah.
For
Dirty
so long,
or just straight?
I like one with a good amount of vermouth, like like a nice dry white vermouth, and sorry about my neighbor's dog.
Oh, you're good.
Barking over here. But yeah, they I love that. It was like for so long I just thought I didn't like gin because I didn't like tonic water. And I just thought like, oh, the only thing you
like gin and tonic
drink with gin, is a gin and tonic. And then once I tasted other cocktails, I was just
game changer. I love gin too. Yeah, and even I mean, it's a whole nother world because of the different like botanicals and different things that are the different spices and stuff that they can add into the different gins to make them have different flavors, from juniper to cedar to whatever it is. It's crazy. It's cool. It's a fun thing. I love cocktails. I love the food scene. I love that creativity that comes along with it. I think it's really fun. I really got into gin. I think I feel like I started off a little bit more gin. Dude, before I even get into that, you mentioned San Diego's beer scene, and I spent 2010 till right before I left Invisible Children. I left San Diego at the end of 2012, so a couple years, almost 3 years, and I didn't really love IPAs when I lived in San Diego, and I'd try them all the time, but I didn't love them. But it's an acquired taste, and since leaving there, I went to Minnesota, which also has a fantastic craft beer scene. Maybe arguably better than San Diego, but that's a discussion for another day, maybe. But we could have a taste off. It's an aggressive take, but I think that there's some really quality beers. But yeah, the craft beer scene is a must for me. But it's just funny now. I love IPAs, and I've actually moved. My beer tastes have moved towards sours over the years. Oh yeah, and I really enjoy a good sour, especially living in a warm place. It's that quench your thirst, kind of like gives you that refreshing feel. But
for sure, it's like the trends come in waves. As far as
I've jumped on that sour beer trend real hard.
Like that's this really old tradition from Europe, and like everyone was on the like super hops, IPA berries for a while, and then it was, especially I think that people wanted like lower ABV, like more sippable and sessionable beers, and like the Berliner Weiss and sour, category just like fits that so well. I mean, and the sour thing was before the seltzer thing. And now it's like
now it's all seltzers.
Yeah, now everything is on like the Dog and Truly and all those other brands out there making the hard seltzer. So.
And now all of your craft beer places, your breweries, they all have a seltzer as well now. A lot of them, at least around here.
Yeah. You know what is really crushing out here in San Diego? I mean, prior to like the whole shutdown, of course, was hard kombucha. Oh. That's taken off in San Diego. There's 3 big brands out here that are just like really
interesting.
They grew in a very short amount of time.
It makes sense for California, and it's also I bet you if we talk I guess this in a normal time frame that didn't involve COVID-19, I bet you if we were talking 6 months, that would be like the new trend, probably countrywide, it'd kind of spread. I'm sure there's kombucha. It's got its own group of people, it's got its own little like niche place that I feel like would be a really fun thing to see how that grows. But I bet in 6 months, if this was a normal time frame, we'd be talking hard kombucha for sure. Dude, real quick, what's your time frame? What's your do you have a lot going on today? Just a time check, we're 70 minutes in and we haven't even gotten to like what makes you and wanted to see if you had extra time. Or
I'm happy to keep chatting, man. I just I could take an intermission break real quick and come back. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's cut it here, and we'll do 2 parts, and I'll do a 2-part series with Adam Palumbo. So,
right.
How's that sound?
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good, man.
All right, I'll close this out on this one, and then we'll do a whole nother podcast. So if you're listening, this is the end of part 1, and we will move on to part 2. Thank you, Adam, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again in part 2. And for all of you listening, you don't want to miss out. Part 2, we're going to go back into Adam's life, talk about childhood and what brought him up to today, working at Ironside. And so check us out. Go to CrazyFaceUno.com today. There you can check out, some items from our online store, and you can donate. Please visit us on Facebook and Instagram, where you can like and comment on our posts. If you want to go above and beyond, please visit CrazyFaceUno Podcast on iTunes, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Share them with your friends, your family, just random strangers on the street. We're welcome to everyone. Thank you again, everyone, for visiting, for listening to this podcast. We appreciate you. We love you. Peace!